I'm still in the midst of me trying to deal with a point in.
Okay,
Scripture.
who can read it?
Yeah, let him go, bro.
Thank you. In 1 Timothy chapter 2, we see Paul saying, make prayers, intercession, giving of thanks for pos anthropos, all men, all humanity. That's the Greek word there. And then he says, for kings and for all who are in authority. What king did the nation of Israel have in the first century that Paul is telling Timothy that we should pray for?
I guess it would be whoever followed after Herod when he died and got.
Okay, was that an Israelite?
In your paradigm.
And in your paradigm?
No, in my paradigm, I wouldn't say what you're saying right now. So I'm gonna walk with you. So,
but I'm not saying anything. I'm asking you a question, brother.
No, you asking me a question, but then you leading me in the understanding. I'm
not leading you anywhere. I'm asking you a question.
The way you understand it is all men means all people. So I got to think about it from your point of view. I think it would be who followed after Herod, because Herod died. He got filled with worms.
Okay, so it says, and all who are.
That's
okay,
what you're saying.
Okay, perfect. So that's not an Israelite. So when Paul says all men, then follows it up with a person who you agree is not an Israelite, is Paul consistent with his usage of pos anthropos in 1 Timothy chapter 2?
I don't
know. Or is
he
inconsistent? He's inconsistent?
I don't know.
You don't know if Paul's consistent enough? You don't know if
I would have to look at another usage of that word and see how he uses it.
I'm saying within the context of 1 Timothy.
Yo!
Yeah. Again, the point of contention is not if all.
If you don't understand, ask a question.
Okay.
Because you might not know what we're talking about right now.
Here's the issue.
I understand. I understand. Can I answer that?
Okay.
No, wait, hold on. This is for it's educational, bro.
3 John 1
I don't care. If y'all have favorite doctrine that you prefer, please have it. But let it be educational. So what he's arguing is in 1 Timothy, it says all men. And what I used in 3 John just says all. But it's the descriptor is describing men in both places. So the all don't mean all in one place. It's an impossibility. But yet the word all is used. That's what I'm saying to him. For everybody that don't understand.
I understand your point. But
I know you do. Wait 1 second.
Okay,
bro.
you're talking to the crowd?
Yes, because they don't know everything.
Okay.
They don't know. So
Right.
that's what we're talking about right now. And Hassad is saying, well, in my verse, it says all men, but he's arguing it as if that changes the usage of all.
No. Here's the point, and I hear your question. Here's the main point, though, brother. If we agree, Paul says pos anthropos, even if in the situation you gave, was he talking about Herod? Well, you already agreed earlier, essentially, that he's talking about.
Well, all the kings that followed was pieces of shit.
They were, and to hell with them. But here's the point. The point is,
you can't say to hell with them because Paul, in your paradigm,
I'm saying that in retrospect, Joel, I'm saying that in retrospect. In retrospect, I can look back and see that they lived a horrible life, and so God dealt with them.
Nero,
beautiful.
You would say intercede for him?
Brother, what I asked that God, I'm going to answer your question directly.
Because I take all your questions. Honest, give me that.
I believe Nero is the one who killed the Apostle Paul, right?
But give me that for a second. I answer every question you ask me. I answer.
Yeah, I'm answering it right now, brother. I promise you. I believe Nero is the one, the Apostle Paul, by beheading, if I'm correct.
But we gonna pray and intercede.
Wouldn't I ask God, change this guy's heart? He's trying to kill us. Shouldn't we ask that God makes? Because we're gonna complain about this guy being a bad person. So shouldn't we want him to be a good person? Shouldn't we want him to be a good person?
Hassan,
or else why complain about bad people?
Hassan, who you think
Don't you want bad
You're
people
not bringing me to
people,
this
or
verse.
do we want everybody to just be a piece of shit and never change?
Hassan, who you think you're talking to? You're not bringing me to this verse to argue. Does the Bible ever say, pray for the king's heart to be kind towards us? You bringing me to this verse to say that all people are included, huh?
Right.
You're not.
That the city that you in don't fall, but none of those people was ever included in the salvation plan.
So what about verse 4, brother? Who have
I'm trying to get to it.
Go ahead, brother.
If you allow me.
Go ahead, and I got to dip out, and I got to go.
You know what I'm saying? I can do it for myself.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
So we see that motif often, but I wouldn't have the man's Christ sacrifice then offered to them, because there was no offer for Pharaoh. What this does is this causes a problem. This makes the Lord's ways unequal. And I don't believe the Lord's ways are unequal. If anybody's ways are unequal, it's ours. I don't see the Most High through the history of the Bible operating that way. I see a respect for the kings of the other nations when they have rulership over the people. But I don't see For instance, go to Esdras, not second, Esdras 4:1. Read that real quick.
Yeah, they didn't want to help us. They wanted to help us, but
if the doctrine, all right, then he understands what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think.
But if the doctrine was that, if the doctrine was that the Lord's sentiment was consistently, because you tried to say that Jeremiah 29 could have that sense too. If the doctrine was that the Lord's purpose was to bring these other nation kings in, then immediately Ezra and Yeshua and the elders was immediately going off, because that wasn't their sentiment.
Yeah, it's a completely separate context, brother. God,
even Nero, you would say intercede for him?
So shouldn't we want him to be a good person? God,
even Nero.
So shouldn't we want him to be a good person? God,
even Nero.
So shouldn't
I want to give all the praises and the honor to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rucha HaKodash, and double honors to the elder apostles and the elder bishops of Great Millstone. Honors as well to the other elders, your brethren, you fellow believers of this truth. Shalom to you, for your sisters. Shalom to the elect. I want to try to make this video quick, snappy, and to the point, so to speak. Just to go into this man is now fighting. These men of the Genesis Israelites are now abandoned the work of fighting for salvation for our own, and let me say the elect, to now fighting for the Edomites, right, and other nations. Although Obadiah said there shall be none remaining of the house of Esau, which, if that's the case, he decides to save other nations, but I'm not going to save Esau. That would make the Lord double-minded as well. But that's another video. But I want to go into to you sisters. Now, you sisters know now there's more of a sisterhood, so to speak, coming against men. But really, you're kind of jealous of one another because you're carnal. You're jealous of the hair. You're jealous of other nations' hair, and so forth. You might be jealous of another woman who got a big butt, so you go to get injections to get your butt enlarged. The point I'm making is, just like Jake, they'll see another woman, which may be an Edomite, could be an Eve because it's not skin color, but in their ideology, they'll look at a white woman. They're in school sitting around and they're talking about each other's hair, and a white girl comes into class and they're worshiping her, man. Let's say a dance break off, they're having a dance. You're going into the auditorium and you dancing, knowing a white woman can't dance worth a damn. But what the black woman would do? They would say, go ahead, girl. She doing it. She doing it. This goes back to slavery, where we self-hate, right? You'll get the Jakes. They'll be cool as hell with the white guy. Although, again, it's not strictly skin color. But in their mindset, this is a white man, so I'm going to be cool with him. I'm going to rock with him. That's my boy right there. We see it, right? And they don't get shot up, but they'll shoot each other up. And they'll hang together and do anything they can to uplift that white person, so-called white person. So this is what we see with the Genesis Israelites. They'll do anything they can, right, to have hatred on the brotherhood and the things that they were taught, right? A double-minded men, they're not teaching the things that they should be taught, but then they uplift Nero and Trump. This is what they're doing. So anyway, I hope this lesson is going to be edifying, and I'm going to try to hit the points. I exhort thee, 1 Timothy 2:1, I exhort, therefore, that first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all men, right? Just like we can go into Acts, what is it, Acts 2, real quick. I don't think I have Acts 2 up. Yeah, let's jump back to Acts 2 real quick. For all men. Okay, Acts 13, that's what I meant. Acts 13, and it says, I'm going to get to the point, 13 and 16. Then Paul stood up, beckoning with his hand, and said, men of Israel, and ye that fear God. So, the God-fearers. So, really, what he's saying here is pretty much the same thing, right? We're going to show you that the God of this people, Israel, chose our fathers, right? But now he guess he didn't, okay? And exalted the people when they dwelt as strangers in the land of Egypt. So somehow the Messiah prayed for Pontius Pilate to save him as well, or We know he wasn't meant to be saved, but at least pray for him for the works to help the people. But we don't see that with Pontius Pilate, right? So, with Yahushua praying for him. So let's go back. This is weird. This is weird energy. These guys are doing anything they can to strike up controversy to get more money. This is what this is all about, And I gave them a click, right? Just to be able to do a video. So they're throwing stumbling blocks out there, Anyway, for the kings and of all that are in authority, that will make that we may lead in quiet and peaceably life in all godliness and honesty. So what we have to do is jump right here to where it says that for the kings and for all that are in authority. This is saying the same thing. It could have just said for the leaders. Let's go to the word kings. Let's look this up. Let's look up kings. Let's see what it says.
Strong's G 935. Basilus.
We see this in G 935. Basilus. This is what it says. A leader of the people. Prince. Commander. Lord of the land. King. You see what I'm saying? So it says right here, a leader of the people, a prince, commander, lord of the land, and a king. So really, there was leaders set up in the churches, right? And then you do have the King Agrippa, which we will touch on that next. We'll touch on that next. Again, I was going to go into the old Bible on that. I may even go into some other etymology. I don't know. So let's, let's ask this. Basically, talking about King Agrippa. Did Paul pray for this king? This is what AI says. Paul was put on trial before King Agrippa, right? So Paul used maneuvering tactics, and we're going to show you that in Acts 26. It says, who was the ruling king in the first century. While Paul did not explicitly pray for him, he did make a closing appeal to King Agrippa II, which the second was more of a playful Agrippa. He wasn't like King Herod the first. So you can manipulate him a little better, right? We're going to show you that too. It says, hoping that the king would believe the prophets and be saved, except for his chains. So when AI tells you this man literally put it and said, well, Paul just prayed for King Agrippa too. Now, when you're in authority or you're in a situation, and I read a lot of the commentary where he was saying that he was facing a lot of prison time, right? So you're going to appeal to the king, and this is all that was being done. He appealed to the king, right? We're going to go to Acts 26. Like I said, I'll try to make this short. It says, then Agrippa, right, said unto Paul, well, let me go to 26, and, so some of you may not know, I don't know, so I got to get more of it. Verse 25, but he said, I am not mad, most noble Festus, right? But forth the words of truth and soberness. For the king knoweth of these things, before whom also I speak freely. For I am persuaded that none of these things are hidden from him. For this was not done in a corner. King Agrippa, believest thou the prophets? With a question mark. I know that thou believest, okay, would to God. Wait, thou believest. Then Agrippa said unto Paul, almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian man. That's what it originally said, a Christian. Now, the original word was Christian. Like when people say they get christening, it didn't sound like the word Christian, right? And Paul said, I would to God that not only thou, right, which he's really saying himself when you read a lot of this, but also all that hear thee this day, where both almost altogether such as I am accept these bonds. So when you go into the older Bibles and you go into the older compendium, what's they call that? The Old English compendium, they'll say anointed, but it also links to mercy. Let's read a little commentary on that. Not even commentary, a little AI. It says, in the Old English Christian text glossaries, writers often explain what is meant to be a Christian by describing its virtues, behaviors expected of believers in mercy, right? Mild Hersenes, Missy, Old English, was absolutely essential in Christian identity in Anglo-Saxon. So a compendium explaining Old English Christian technology might have said something like a Christian man should show mercy, right? Or define Christian practice in inherently involving merciful action. This is especially emphasized because Anglo-Saxon Christianity strongly stressed mercy, almsgiving, compassion, marks of faith are true. So I'm not going to keep reading the rest. So when you look back at it, when he said, thou almost persuade me to be a Christian, right? He's talking about actually being persuaded to be a merciful man, right? So I'm going to read a little commentary. Just bear with me. I don't have time to pull it up on the computer, so I'm going to read it from my phone. This is the Elliott commentary. You can look this up yourself. It says, the words run literally in with little or thou persuadest me, right? This be completely by with little speech, with little labor, or little evidence. We have precisely the same rendered in a few words. Agrippa's words accordingly are an expression not of half belief, but of cynical sneer. Yeah. Thou art trying to make me a Christian, right? It says, would have been nearest paraphrase of his defensive answer, right, to St. Paul's appeal. Let me go on. I think there's a little more in this. It says, it's a whole lot. I'm just trying to hit points. Namely, with little, thou persuadest me to become a Christian. The sarcasm is meant to say, thus summarily, thus brevi minute on in Latin, you will not manage to win me over as to be a Christian, right? This is what it says. See, the commentators know, but Agrippa still showed. Remember, they had the council, so he was shown mercy, right? But he could not be a Christian. Let me see if there's a little more. I mean, there might be some more commentaries on this. So let's look up sarcasm real quick. Let's look up sarcasm. Let's look up sarcasm. Sarcasm is biting, taunt, gibe, satirical, like a satire, satirical remark or expression from late sarcasmus, right? A sneer, jest, hunt, taunt, or mockery. Okay. See, you're not going to have the whole picture unless you go into everything. That's the bottom line. So when you see in 2 Timothy, it says to the kings and to the all men and so forth and so on, you got to put yourself in that position. Who was he talking to? Right? And who he was trying to get favor from. Right? These guys are sellouts. Right? And his brother here, a lot of these, the problem with being on the defense, it's hard to just, when you see these phrases like this, the first thing you need to do is you need to make time. You need to make time If they're going to have these debates, hold up, I got to look this up. That's all you got to do. Let me go into the blue letter real quick. Let me check this out. Okay, and let me see what it says. Let me even read a little commentary. If you're not going to take the time to do that, and this is why they put a time limit on debates, even though they go 4 hours and nothing gets accomplished. Okay, so anyway, it says, such as Paul avoids the word Christian, which for himself might willingly be accepted. So everything you read on here is not always exactly what it is, right? And you got to remember that universalism, they had to word things a certain way, change things a certain way to make it seem like it was for all people. If that wasn't the case, a Christian wouldn't have an argument. I'm saying a false Christian. Anyway, it says, but which used by the king in mockery. This is another commentary. In mockery sense, which we go to cynical or sneer, and therefore would not have made his wish seen as an acceptable one. You may call me a Christian in mockery, right? But it says, my hope is faith in Christ are such that I know no better prayer for any than to wish you all like blessings, or something like that. In spite of his leniency, which Paul had been and first treated, it's like I don't have my glasses, so it's a little hard to read it. It says, because his case was selected more serious in consequences of his being let in prison as long, or because he was just now before the court as a prisoner. So let me ask everybody a question. If you know you had a mission to do and you didn't finish the mission, and the Most High God, Yahweh, put you on a mission, and you go out to do this mission, and in the middle of this mission, your own people that you're fighting for in this mission get you locked up. Now you're locked up, you're in court, you're being judged. What do you do to a person that can get you out of this situation? What do you do? We all know that damn near none of us like the court system. None of us believe in the judges, but the majority of us are going there and say, yes, Your Honor. You know, remember the scripture says, agree with thine adversary quickly, and lest thou be in the way, and so forth and so on. That came from the Messiah. So what would you do? Would you sit up there and fight against the system and risk not completing your mission? Or would you do what is necessary to complete the mission? And the reason why I'm saying this, because I'm going on different angles, different dynamics, so to speak. If you want to look at it like, okay, he was fighting against Agrippa, or let me say, he was saying Agrippa could be saved as a Christian, which he did not say. We proved that. Or you can look at it like, okay, Agrippa, show me mercy, which we could look at it like that. Or you could say, well, I'm playing Agrippa, right? I'm trying to show him that what they're saying about me is not true. So I'm going to say, I wish you were a Christian like me. And with a sneer, he said, oh, thou must persuade me to be a Christian. And so what you must understand is in that time, everybody had their culture. See, when you're in the Western American culture, you think everybody can be every damn thing, which they can. But in that time, you know, Agrippa, the Edomite, his line, his lineage, they was already over the Hebrews, the Israelites. So why would they want to digress? They wanted to continue in their line, and they were just accepting, right, and allowing them to do what they did. If I was an Edomite in the same situation, I wouldn't even have looked at it like you trying to persuade me to be one of them. Knowing damn well it wouldn't have benefited Agrippa to do that. I'm just saying. I mean, it's just common sense. Common sense. That's all. I don't think I have anything else Yeah, I think I looked up everything. I just wanted to make it short, the recap. At the end of the day, when you go to 1 Timothy, for kings and for all that are in authority, is really going into the kings and all in authority. You had leaders of Israel, right? And then he was making an appeal, and the king was there, right? And this is why we showed you in the, right here, it says in the first century, Paul did not explicitly pray for him. So why is the AI saying this, right? That means even the Edomites and AI who even programmed this, they know this, man. All the scholars know this. But they know so-called black people don't read a damn thing. They just look at the layers and that's it. That's all I have on